You'll get $20, Marcus. That was the final offer. My son's voice dripped with satisfaction, like a man about to claim his mother's $170 million empire. He demanded my presence at the will reading, eager to watch my face when my worthlessness was declared official. What he didn't realize was that my ex-wife, even from beyond, had orchestrated one final masterpiece, and I was at its center. The hum of my table saw had been my symphony for 6 years. Each whirring blade was a melody, each oak shaving a verse. Here in my modest workshop in Portland, Oregon, I wasn't a disgraced engineer. I wasn't a discarded husband. I was simply a woodworker, crafting honest objects from imperfect timber. My hands, weathered and marked from years of labor, understood wood's truth. It never deceives. It simply exists, knots and flaws included. I valued that honesty. The scent of pine dust and mineral oil was my only cologne these days. I was smoothing the curved back of a dining chair when my ancient cell phone vibrated on the cluttered bench. I killed the saw's power, and sudden silence engulfed the space. Wiping my hands on my worn jeans, I approached the phone. 2 words glowed on the screen, cold and distant. Marcus Jensen. 22 years. That's how long the silence had lasted. 2 decades without a call that wasn't a criticism or demand. No holiday greetings, no acknowledgments, just vast emptiness constructed with accusations and scorn. I'd assumed that silence would persist until death. I suppose I was partially correct. Drawing a breath that tasted of sawdust, I opened the phone. My voice emerged rough from sparse use. Hello. The voice responding was sharp, clipped, belonging to a universe far removed from my workshop. It carried the tone of Manhattan traffic and corporate boardrooms. Marcus. He never called me Dad anymore. Just Marcus, a name he spoke like an irritating inconvenience. David, your mother has passed. No grief colored his words, no sorrow. He delivered the news with the emotional investment of someone reading stock prices. Last Thursday, an aneurysm. It was sudden. I stood frozen, gazing through the workshop window at the rain-soaked Oregon yard. Strange numbness washed over me. Victoria, gone. The words felt misaligned somehow. She'd always been a force, a tempest of drive and vision. Brilliant, captivating, and ultimately devastating. To think of her as simply gone felt incorrect. His impatience grew with my silence. Are you listening? The funeral? I began to ask, my throat dry. He interrupted. Already done. You weren't invited. Now listen carefully, this is why I'm calling. Her attorney requires your attendance. The will reading. This Friday at 11 sharp. Lawrence and Webb's offices, downtown Manhattan. Don't be tardy. It wasn't a request. It was a command, issued from a son who'd long ago crowned himself ruler of a world I no longer inhabited. I found my voice, keeping it level. I have no business being there, David. Victoria and I settled everything 22 years ago in court. I have nothing of hers, and she has nothing of mine. A sound emerged from the phone, a short, harsh bark of laughter. It was devoid of humor, a noise of pure contempt. That sound, more than anything else, stirred something deep within me. Oh, I know you're getting nothing, he sneered. Don't delude yourself. My mother despised you. But it's a legal requirement, a procedural formality. You must be present to officially hear that you're nothing. A documented, notarized confirmation of your insignificance to this family. He paused, letting the venom settle. Personally, I simply want to witness your expression. I want to watch that false dignity crumble when you hear it proclaimed aloud. It's the only entertainment value you provide anymore. The humiliation was raw, deliberate, almost artful. This wasn't wounded anger. This was calculated cruelty from someone wanting to grind his opponent into dust. Are you finished? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Almost, he said, dripping with condescension. Don't worry about the return trip. I'll spot you $20 for the bus ride back. Consider it a parting gesture. The line went dead. Click. I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. The workshop's silence returned, but it felt different now. Heavy, suffocating. Anger, an emotion I'd buried beneath years of sawdust and resignation, began to smolder. He hadn't invited me to a will reading. He'd summoned me to a public execution. My execution. He wanted a performance. Fine. He would receive one. Could this be the moment everything changes? What secret has Victoria kept buried for over 2 decades? Stay with us to discover the truth that will shatter everything David believes. Friday morning arrived. The taxi ride from LaGuardia felt like traveling through dimensions. Portland's quiet, tree-lined streets were distant memories, replaced by Manhattan's towering steel canyons. I paid the driver, the fare stinging more than expected, and stepped onto the sidewalk. The air here felt sharper, colder. Lawrence and Webb's building was precisely what you'd anticipate. It didn't merely occupy the street, it commanded it. A sheer wall of dark glass and polished stone. I pushed through the revolving doors, and the city's noise vanished instantly, replaced by reverent silence. The lobby was a cathedral dedicated to wealth. Floors of white marble stretched endlessly, so polished I could see distorted reflections of ceiling lights above. Walls were paneled in dark mahogany, emitting faint traces of lemon oil and old money. I'd spent my career designing structures, but never spaces like this. This wasn't built for people. It was constructed to intimidate, to remind every visitor of their insignificance. And I felt small. I wore my only suit, charcoal gray. The fabric was quality wool, the kind rarely found anymore. But it was 22 years outdated. The cut too generous, shoulders too padded. It was clean. I'd pressed it myself until the trouser crease could cut paper. But it was ancient. The suit I'd worn to the divorce hearing. The last time I'd faced Victoria directly. I could still detect faint mothball traces, a scent of preservation and decay. As I approached the reception desk, my old leather shoes clicked loudly on the marble, embarrassingly loud in the tomb-like quiet. Young attorneys in their 30s, wearing suits costing more than my truck, glanced up from phones. Their eyes didn't linger. They scanned, categorized, dismissed me instantly. I wasn't a client. I wasn't a threat. I was just old, an anomaly. This was David's first move, summoning me to his domain, to this fortress, while I wore the armor of my greatest defeat. The receptionist was young, blonde, wearing a headset so sleek it appeared part of her. "Can I help you?" Her voice was bright, but her eyes were bored. "I'm here for an 11 o'clock appointment," I said, my voice sounding rough. "The reading of Victoria Jensen's will. I'm Marcus Jensen." Her eyes flickered. The name Jensen registered, but my face didn't match expectations. She was anticipating someone like David, someone who belonged, not me. Confusion, then disdain crossed her features before the professional mask returned. "Of course," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Mr. Whitmore is expecting you. Please have a seat." She gestured toward a waiting area, low black leather sofas around a massive glass table. I sat on the edge, the leather cold and rigid. I clasped my calloused carpenter's hands together, resting them on my old suit. I was a ghost, a relic from a buried past. And I sat there, waiting to be officially declared worthless, just as my son promised. Then they arrived. They didn't simply enter. They made an entrance. David moved with unearned confidence, the swagger of someone never denied anything. He wore a navy Tom Ford suit, probably costing 6 months of my income. His hair was slicked perfectly. His watch gleamed gold and steel. His expression radiated bored entitlement. Behind him trailed his accessories. First, a young woman impossibly thin, startlingly beautiful in an artificial way, squeezed into a designer dress, clutching a handbag. Her name was Alexis. She was absorbed in her phone. Second was a man in his 40s with an October inappropriate tan and impossibly white teeth. He had the fixed smile of a predator. This was Ryan, the financial consultant. They weren't a mourning family. They were predators circling their kill. David strode to reception, not glancing my direction. "David Jensen," he announced, his voice echoing. "Whitmore is expecting me." The receptionist transformed, all smiles. "Yes, Mr. Jensen. Right away. Please have a seat." He turned then, eyes landing on me. He stopped. A slow, cruel smile spread across his face. A cat cornering a mouse. He approached, expensive shoes silent on marble. His companions followed, curiosity piqued. "My God," he said, voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "You actually came." He examined my old suit, my worn collar. "Guess you really need that $20. Alexis looked up from her phone, releasing a high-pitched giggle like breaking glass. Ryan's predatory smile widened. David gestured vaguely toward me, addressing his disciples. "This," he said, the pause itself an insult, "is my father." He said, "father," like it was shameful, an unfortunate biological fact requiring acknowledgement. It was an apology for my existence. I remembered him at 9. Christmas morning. I'd spent weeks handcrafting a detailed model submarine. I'd been proud. David opened the box, glanced at it, tossed it aside. "It's not a name brand," he'd whined. "I want what my friends have." Victoria, always quick to solve problems with money, had swooped in with an expensive gaming system. She'd created this monster, one spoiled whim at a time. I said nothing. I simply looked at him, met his smug gaze and held it. I didn't flinch. I didn't defend myself. My silence unnerved him more than anger could. He'd expected a reaction, begging, pleading, fury, anything confirming his power. I gave him nothing. His smile tightened. He wasn't enjoying this as planned. He turned away, speaking to Ryan. So first thing, we liquidate the property portfolio. He was interrupted by heavy oak doors opening. A man appeared in the doorway, and the room's atmosphere shifted. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. The performance was about to begin. What devastating truth awaits inside that conference room? The real show hasn't even started yet. Keep reading to witness the moment David's entire world comes crashing down. The man in the doorway was in his 60s, tall, wearing an impeccable gray suit radiating quiet authority, not flashy wealth. This was Mr. Whitmore. He had a judge's face, impassive, unreadable, with eyes that assessed and filed you away. His quiet confidence instantly silenced the room. Even David seemed to diminish slightly. His gaze swept across the room, passing over David and his entourage as if they were furniture. Then his eyes found me. He held my gaze momentarily, and I detected something in his expression. Not pity, something closer to understanding. He approached me. "Mr. Jensen," he said, voice level and respectful. "Thank you for coming." He didn't offer a hand, but the words themselves were a handshake. A simple acknowledgement of my presence, my right to be there. Only then did he turn to my son. "Mr. Jensen," he said. Same name, but the tone was different, colder, formal, stripped of warmth. The slight was subtle, but David's entire existence was built on fragile scaffolding of status and special treatment. Being acknowledged second, after me, the outcast, was a direct challenge to his authority. I saw annoyance flicker in his eyes, his jaw tightening. He tried covering it with dismissive arrogance. "Let's finish this, Whitmore," he snapped. "I have reservations at Le Bernardin to celebrate. I don't intend to be late." Mr. Whitmore's expression didn't change. He simply nodded once. "As you wish," he said, holding the conference room door open. "This way, gentlemen." The conference room was as cold and imposing as the lobby, but with added finality. A single massive mahogany table filled the center, so reflective it resembled a dark pool. Floor-to-ceiling windows lined one wall, offering only a sterile view of the gray building across the street. David naturally took the seat opposite the door, clearly marking himself as the family's new head. He leaned back, arms spread wide, staking his claim. Alexis and Ryan sat flanking him like chess pieces protecting their king. I took a seat near the door, an afterthought, just there to fill the chair, a legal requirement. Mr. Whitmore walked to the table's head. He didn't sit immediately. He placed a thick, leather-bound document on the surface with a soft, definitive thud. The room's air seemed to thin. He deliberately pulled out his chair, sat, then with methodical slowness reached into his breast pocket and produced simple gold-rimmed reading glasses. He put them on, movements precise and unhurried. He was in complete control. He opened the binder. The pages were thick, cream-colored. He cleared his throat. "This," he began, voice filling the room, "is the last will and testament of Victoria Castellano Jensen, dated September 12th of this year." Victoria Castellano Jensen. Even in death, she made a statement. She'd taken my name in marriage, but built her empire with hers. Castellano, a name that was a brand, worth, according to my son, $170 million. Whitmore's voice was monotone, perfect for legal documents. "Being of sound mind and body, I hereby declare this to be my last will and testament, revoking all former wills and codicils heretofore made by me." David sighed impatiently, glancing at his expensive watch. He was already bored. "First," Whitmore continued, "I direct that all my just debts and funeral expenses be paid from my estate." He paused, then turned the first page. "Second, I give and bequeath the sum of $60,000, tax-free, to my housekeeper, Carmen Rodriguez, in gratitude for her 28 years of loyal service and her endless patience." I saw David roll his eyes. He muttered something to Ryan. The word peanuts was unmistakable. I found myself smiling internally. Carmen. I remembered her. She'd been with Victoria even before the real money came. A kind, quiet woman who'd always had fresh coffee for me after my arguments with Victoria. She'd seen everything. She deserved every penny. Third, Whitmore read on. I give and bequeath the sum of $120,000 to the Coastal Seabird Sanctuary." This time Alexis reacted. She let out a disbelieving scoff. "Birds?" she whispered to David loud enough for me to hear. "Seriously?" I felt a sharp pang. Not sadness. Something more complex. Nostalgia. Before David was born, before Castellano Designs became an empire, Victoria and I had driven an old Jeep down the California coast. We'd spent days watching seabirds at a remote sanctuary. I remembered her standing on cliffs, watching pelicans dive, tears streaming down her cheeks. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, Marcus," she'd whispered. She had remembered. Even after all the bitterness, all the lawyers, all the silent years, she'd remembered that day. Fourth, I give and bequeath the sum of $30,000 to my driver, Luis Martinez, for his excellent service and for never once commenting on the questionable guests my son brought to my home. David sat bolt upright. "What the hell does that mean?" Ryan put a hand on his arm. "It's nothing, David. Just a joke." But David was visibly agitated. This wasn't following his script. He was supposed to be the star, and the opening act was getting too much attention. He began tapping fingers on the mahogany table, sharp, impatient tap 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 echoing in the quiet room. Whitmore ignored him and continued. "Fifth, I give and bequeath my collection of first edition architectural books to the Seattle Public Library." Tap tap tap. David slammed his hand flat on the table. The sound was like a gunshot. "Whitmore, for God's sake," he boomed. "Can we skip the charity donations and servants' tips? My time is valuable. Just get to the main event, the real estate, the portfolio, the money. Get to the part where it all goes to me." David's about to learn that his mother saved the most devastating revelations for last. What he doesn't know yet will destroy him. Continue reading to witness the moment 22 years of lies finally unravel. The room fell into heavy, suffocating silence. Mr. Whitmore stopped reading. He didn't look startled or angry. He simply stopped. Very slowly, he raised his head, eyes still behind the reading glasses. Then, with deliberation more threatening than any shout, he removed the glasses. He folded them. He placed them on the table and stared at my son. His gaze was flat, cold, utterly unimpressed. It was the look of a man who'd dealt with spoiled children his entire life and was finally done with it. "Mr. Jensen," Whitmore said, his voice dropping, losing its monotone, becoming a precise, sharp instrument. "This is not a negotiation. It is not a business meeting. It is the legal proclamation of a deceased woman's final wishes. I will read every single word in this document exactly as your mother wrote it. And you will sit there and listen. Is that clear?" David's face flushed dark, ugly red. He'd been challenged, dressed down like a child. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at Ryan, who subtly shook his head. He was trapped. Whitmore held his gaze one beat longer. Then, satisfied, he put his glasses back on. He picked up the document, deliberately flattened the page, took a composed sip of water, and cleared his throat. He'd made my son wait. He'd re-established control. "Very well," Whitmore said, voice returning to neutral monotone. "Let us continue with Article 6, regarding personal associates of my son, David Jensen." Ryan, the financial consultant, sat up straighter. His predatory smile returned. He smoothed his suit lapel, ready to receive his expected bonus. Alexis finally put her phone down, eyes bright with anticipation. "To my son's financial consultant, Mr. Ryan Vance," Whitmore continued, pronouncing the title with slight emphasis, as if placing it in quotation marks. "I give and bequeath the sum of $6,000. Ryan's smile froze. 6,000. The number hung in the air, shockingly small. Less than his suit cost. I saw his knuckles whiten as he gripped the table edge. "I bequeath this sum with the legally binding recommendation that he use it to enroll in a course on professional ethics. My own financial records show he has significant need for a refresher on the topic." The predatory smile vanished, replaced by pale, stunned fury. His head snapped toward David, eyes wide. "What is this?" he hissed. And, Whitmore continued seamlessly, "To my son's current companion, Alexis, I leave her the high-quality replica handbag she attempted to exchange for my authentic Hermes bag from my closet last month." If Ryan was stunned, Alexis was incinerated. Her perfectly made-up face turned dark, blotchy red. Her mouth dropped open. She hadn't just been insulted, she'd been exposed as a thief. The crazy old hag," she shrieked. "She lied. I never—" "Shut up," David roared, voice bouncing off walls. He wasn't defending her. He was silencing a problem. His carefully constructed image was crumbling. "It doesn't matter," he snarled at both of them. "Get on with it, Whitmore. Stop wasting time and get to my part." I sat perfectly still, and for the first time in 22 years, I felt a connection to Victoria. This was the woman I'd married. Not the victim my son had painted, but a brilliant, cold, lethally precise woman. She wasn't just reading a will. She was settling every score. Mr. Whitmore, completely unbothered, simply waited for the outburst to subside. Article 7. Whitmore said, voice dropping back into neutral legal tone. "To my son, David Jensen." David leaned forward. His breathing was shallow. His knuckles were white on the table. "I give and bequeath the penthouse apartment on 5th Avenue. A huge sigh of relief escaped David. A genuine full-body exhale. Color returned to his face. He smirked, shooting a triumphant look first at Ryan, then at me. "My complete collection of Patek Philippe watches." David's smirk widened into a grin. He laughed, a sharp bark. "Yes, now we're talking." He looked at me, eyes gleaming. "Hear that, old man? The Pateks. All of them." Whitmore raised a single finger, stopping David's celebration cold. "However," he said, and the word hung like a blade, "the watch collection is stored in a secure safe located within the penthouse. The single key to that safe." He paused. He looked down at the document, then looked up, his eyes finding mine across the long expanse of mahogany table. "I have entrusted to his father, Marcus Jensen." The silence that followed was absolute. So complete I could hear the faint hum of air conditioning. Alexis and Ryan, lost in their own humiliation moments before, snapped their heads toward me. David just stared. His face, which had been flushed with victory, went pale. His grin dissolved. "What?" His voice was quiet, disbelieving. "What did you just say?" "The key, Mr. Jensen, was entrusted to your father." David slammed his hands on the table and stood, the chair scraping violently behind him. "What are you talking about? Is this a joke? A sick joke?" He pointed a shaking finger at me. "Him? He hasn't seen her in 22 years. He's nobody." Every eye in the room was on me, and I was just as stunned as he was. I stared at Whitmore, my mind reeling. A key. Victoria had given me a key. What did it mean? Was it another game? Another way to twist the knife from the grave? I had no key. I had no idea what anyone was talking about. My son was screaming, his face a mask of disbelief and rage. But I wasn't really in that cold mahogany room anymore. I was back 22 years, in our old house in Connecticut. 3 a.m., finding Victoria in her office, not crying but worse, just staring at spreadsheets, face pale and blank. She looked broken. Castellano Designs, the company that was her life, her passion, her entire identity, was bleeding out, on the verge of catastrophic collapse. The past is about to collide with the present in the most explosive way possible. What really happened 22 years ago? The truth will change everything. Don't miss the final part where all secrets are finally revealed. David had his jacket halfway on, beaming, clapping Ryan on the back. "Right," he said, voice booming. "Lou Bernardine. I'm buying the entire champagne list. Whitmore, just have your assistant send the papers to my office. I'm done here." He turned to leave, a king departing his coronation. "Mr. Jensen." The voice cut through the air like ice. It wasn't loud, but it had a core of absolute steel. It stopped everyone. David turned back, his triumphant face slowly hardening. "What?" Mr. Whitmore was still seated. He hadn't moved. He was looking at David, and his expression was no longer neutral. It was cold. "Please sit down. I have not finished reading." "Finished?" David's voice cracked. "What are you talking about?" "You read it. $20. The joke. It's over." Whitmore, with slow, deliberate motion, reached down to his briefcase. He brought up a second, thinner folder. It was simple manila, bound with a thick red wax seal. That, Whitmore said, tapping the large leather binder, was the conclusion of the original last will and testament. He placed the new folder on the table. "This is a codicil, a legally binding addendum. It was signed, witnessed, and notarized 4 weeks ago, 2 weeks before your mother's aneurysm." He paused, letting the weight sink in. "And its primary clause explicitly states that it supersedes and replaces all previous articles pertaining to the disposition of the primary estate." David didn't just sit down. He collapsed back into his chair. His face was waxy white. Ryan and Alexis were frozen, staring at the red-sealed document like it was a bomb. Whitmore broke the seal with a small sharp knife. He unfolded the single sheet inside, attached to several thicker documents. He put his reading glasses back on. "This," he said, "is a letter from your mother addressed to you, David, with the legal instruction that it be read aloud here today in the presence of all parties." He began to read, and it was no longer his voice. The words were pure Victoria. "To my son David, I am writing this because I am finally done being a coward. For 22 years, I have let you believe a lie that I created, that I nurtured, that I allowed to destroy a good man, your father." "What?" David whispered, a dry, rasping sound. "The story you grew up with, the story of your criminal, scheming father who betrayed me, is a complete fabrication. The opposite of the truth." "No." David's voice was a strangled shriek. He lunged across the table, eyes wild. "She was sick. Senile. This is fake. He pointed at me. He got to her. This is a scam." Whitmore, looking profoundly bored, held up a hand. He slowly lifted another document. "Attached to this codicil is a full 45-page psychiatric and cognitive evaluation of your mother, conducted by a panel of 4 independent board-certified specialists. Performed at her request 72 hours before this document was signed." He looked directly at David. "In their expert, unanimous, and legally binding opinion, your mother was entirely lucid, in full command of her faculties, and possessed of mental acuity superior to 99% of individuals in her age group." He dropped the report with a heavy thud. She was not insane. She was finally done. Nathan sank back, making small gulping sounds. He was out of moves. Whitmore returned to the letter. "The truth, David, is this. 22 years ago, Castellano Designs was on the brink of total failure. I had made terrible, reckless decisions. I was facing not just bankruptcy, but criminal charges for fraud. I was going to lose everything. I was going to prison. I closed my eyes. I was back there, in that dark office, Victoria on the floor, weeping, begging. We were given one way out," Whitmore read. "A deal with unsavory investors that would save the company, but require us to launder their money through operations. I was trapped. If I said no, I went to prison for fraud. If I said yes, eventually prison for money laundering. I collapsed. I was ready to let the world burn. And then your father stepped in." A choked sound came from David. He was shaking his head, hands over his ears. "Your father, the man you've spent 22 years calling a criminal, made a choice to protect me, to protect you. He took the deal. He put his own name, his career, his license on the line. He created the shell companies. He took the darkroom meetings. He handled the wire transfers. He did the dirty work so the Castellano name could remain clean." Whitmore's voice was relentless. He funneled all the risk to himself. He built a legal firewall around me, around the company, and he stood in the fire. When the FBI finally came, they came for him, because that is exactly what he had planned. He confessed to crimes he didn't commit to cover up the real crime that I was responsible for. He lost his license, his reputation, his entire career. He did it to save me, to save the company that you now so arrogantly claim. And what did I do?" Whitmore read, voice dropping. "I listened to you. I listened to your poison. You told me he was a criminal. And I, in my shame and cowardice, agreed. I let that be the story. I divorced him. I abandoned him. I let you treat him like trash because I was terrified that if you knew the truth, you would look at me with the same contempt." The silence was absolute, suffocating. "Your father is not a criminal," Whitmore continued. "He is not a failure. He is a hero. He burned his own life to the ground to keep us warm. This $170 million fortune exists for one reason, because your father, Marcus Jensen, saved it. You, David, have never worked a real day in your life. You have never built anything. You are just a parasite living off scraps of his honor." David made a small, broken sound. "No," he whispered. "No, she didn't." "She did, Mr. Jensen," Whitmore said. And now the conclusion. He turned the final page. "Therefore, having stated the unvarnished truth, I hereby decree all of my property, real and personal, all stocks, bonds, liquid assets, and most importantly, my entire 100% controlling interest in Castellano Designs LLC, an estate valued at $170 million. He stopped. He looked up. He didn't look at David. His eyes found me. "I give, devise, and bequeath to my ex-husband, Marcus Jensen." The words hung in the air. $170 million. Castellano Designs. Me. I leave this not as a gift, but as payment. as long overdue and wholly inadequate compensation for the career I allowed to be destroyed, for the honor I allowed to be stolen, and for the family I allowed to be broken. That's when it hit me. It wasn't about the money. It was about the reason. It was her apology. It was her giving me back my name, my honor. A whimper came from across the table. David wasn't a monster anymore. He was just a broken boy. And finally, Whitmore said, "For my son, David Jensen, who has already received a lifetime's worth of fortune and sacrifices he never acknowledged, I leave him precisely what he so thoughtfully offered to his father." He reached into his desk drawer and emerged holding one item, a check. He placed it on the table and slid it across to David. $20, Whitmore said. "Your inheritance, as your mother specified, for your bus fare." Ryan said nothing. He just stood, pushed his chair in, and walked out. Gone. Alexis looked at the check, looked at David's pathetic face, and disgust crossed her features. "You're pathetic," she hissed. She grabbed her purse and walked out without looking back. David stared at the $20 check. Then he exploded. No, it was a primal scream. His arms swept the table. Glasses, papers, everything flew. Crystal shattered. "I'll sue you." She was crazy. "I'll burn it all down." He spun toward me. "This was you," he bellowed. "You did this." He lunged. He launched himself across the room, hands curled into claws, coming for my throat. But Whitmore was faster. His hand moved to a black intercom button. He pressed it once. Before David could get halfway around the table, the doors burst open. Two security guards, professionals in dark suits, filled the doorway. They grabbed David's arms, spun him around, pinned his arms behind his back with brutal efficiency. "Get your hands off me," he screamed, thrashing. But it was like a fly struggling against steel. "Remove him," Whitmore said flatly. "You can't do this to me." David shrieked as they dragged him backward. "I am David Jensen. I own this building." "Mr. Jensen," Whitmore added, his voice cutting through the tantrum. David froze. Whitmore pointed to the small check on the table. "Don't forget your inheritance." That broke him. He began cursing. He cursed Whitmore. He cursed his mother. But most of all, he cursed me. "I'll kill you, old man. Do you hear me?" He was still screaming as they dragged him out into the hallway, his expensive shoes scuffing pathetically on marble. The door swung shut. He was gone. The heavy silence that followed was profound, broken only by my own breathing. I slumped in my chair, exhausted in a way that went bone deep. "The key," I finally said, my voice rough. "Why did she do that? Why involve me in that?" It was cruel. Whitmore stopped straightening papers. He looked up at me, and for the first time, a genuine human smile touched his mouth, small, sad, knowing. "Mr. Jensen," he said, voice softening. "That was your wife's final test for her son. She wanted to see if he would, even for a moment, humble himself and ask you for something, to see if there was any part of him that could be redeemed." He shook his head. "He failed spectacularly, and it was a message for you." He reached into his breast pocket and pulled out something small, not the thick binder. A key. A single old-fashioned brass key. He slid it across the table. It made a small metallic clink as it stopped near my hand. "That," he said, "is the key she left for you. It was never about the watches. That was just theater. Then what is this for? It's the key to the penthouse. But the safe inside doesn't contain watches. David will have it drilled and find nothing but empty boxes." Another final joke. "So what's this really for?" Whitmore leaned forward. "There is another safe. A wall safe hidden behind a painting in her private study. This is the key to that safe. And it is the original evidence. Everything. The complete 2006 file. All the wire transfers. All the shell company documents you signed. Most importantly, all the emails and letters she sent you begging you to do it." My heart stopped. "She kept it all," Whitmore said quietly. "The entire unvarnished truth, locked away for 22 years. She wanted you to be the one to find it. The one to decide whether to make it public. The money? That was her apology. But this," he nodded at the key, "this was her giving you back your name." I reached out, my rough fingers closing around the small, cool brass. The $170 million was a burden, a new prison. But this key, this was freedom. This entire experience taught me a powerful lesson. The truth has weight and patience all its own. For 22 years, a lie poisoned a family, turning a son against the father who'd secretly saved him. But lies built on silence cannot last forever. Victoria's final confession showed that no matter how deeply buried, truth eventually claws its way to the surface. It proved that true honor isn't about reputation. It's about silent, thankless sacrifices. In the end, a name cleared by truth is worth far more than any fortune. What would you have done with that key and the $170 million burden? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.